Well, hello everybody, in another episode here of some of my shipwreck hunting stuff. Don't really have a name for it, but you are at the Naughty Dog Sailing Channel, named after my boat, but my boat is named after my dogs. Um, Originally it was Bo. Now it's Mac. He's actually at my feet helping me record here, so you may hear him later actually. But so you look over to the right. What do you see there? You see a shipwreck, right? Or sorry, my right. If you guys just look at your screen, what do you see there? There's shipwreck, right? And there's some more down here. A couple ways I was looking at approaching this. I think I will let someone else kind of start it off here. We'll let this kind of set up itself, and then we'll come back and kind of talk about it.
There's over 6,000 shipwrecks here in the Great Lakes. You can cross two more off the undiscovered list thanks to a South Haven couple's honeymoon wreck hunt.
Some want their wedding vows to be traditional.
My wife and I got married during COVID.
I promise to love, honor, and obey.
It's how we find our happy place.
In sickness and in shipwrecks.
So many of our locals aren't even aware they're here.
Until death do us part.
We have shipwrecks all over out here.
Statewide restrictions didn't force Kevin and Amy Ailes to social distance from shipwrecks.
We opted, rather than a lot of travel,
to spend your first days married bobbing in a boat.
I'm a little bit obsessed with shipwrecks.
Going all Indiana Jones.
I put investigating this Mackinac Island wreck on our list.
Every new bride's honeymoon dream, right, Amy? The couple hope to find and identify two wrecks. The Dolphin, a schooner that sank in 1869, and the Peshtigo, a freighter that met the same fate in 1908.
An article was published which had an account from 1970 of the diver who actually was first on the shipwreck. And he had measurements of the shipwreck with modern research techniques and locating the damage on the vessel.
Okay, so how do I want to prep that? So Kevin did a great job of prepping himself, right? So let me switch back over so you can kind of see. I'm using the same because I want to force them. 13 news looks like go all the way up just so you have it here. 13 on your side news. So this was their story. Kevin had reached out. Did a great job at some research on these wrecks and got one of them wrong, and that's one of the things I'm here to talk about. Except that there's a lot of good information that he gave us. So the one I want to talk about is called the Mackinac Island Harbor wreck. So Peshtigo wreck, I think Kevin got this one, nailed it. We knew the Peshtigo was there. You can see it off of Mission Point. Mission Point is still now sometimes called Peshtigo Point. And actually, some of this is kind of important to what I'm going to look at later. Some of the ship you see here is actually used to build homes on the island of Mackinac. Shipwreck like that, shallow water, up on the point, they didn't let that wood go to waste. So let's go back. So now, like I said, we were talking about the one that he actually originally thought was the Dolphin. Later on, we find the Dolphin was actually.
I was able to
here,
see
the Dolphin was found.
This was indeed the Dolphin.
Let's see. Why don't we do this? Go back. Let Kevin kind of finish talking here.
That this was indeed the Dolphin.
In just 55 feet of water.
Lots of identifiable features.
Near Mackinac Island.
That's the collision hole from when this got hit.
The newlyweds weren't done.
We came across a report from 1992 that the bow of a boat had been seen in the harbor and was very vague about where it was.
Okay, so I actually was working on the island when that other thing went down, 92. So I actually remember that being found. They very vague. It's out in the middle of shipping channel stuff. But let's talk about the Dolphin. Unfortunately, Kevin was incorrect on the Dolphin, but a a lot of things did match up. So if you remember, let's remember size, right? Things of that nature. Um, I'll point the two out here in another thing shortly. The difference between the Dolphin and Harbor Wreck, and the wreck that I actually think may be the Harbor Wreck. But so here's the Dolphin. It was actually found by Ken Merriman shortly after the time that Evan believed that the Harbor Wreck is a Dolphin, and I'll be honest, it's a candidate. Well, the Dolphin was found, but 3D model of the Dolphin, you can see here. Picture of a 3D model. It's fully intact, sitting where it should. It was very easily recognizable once they got out on it. Interesting fact, probably wasn't first person to find the Dolphin either. That's the Dolphin of Racine, Wisconsin. We do a search. There's a lot of information on harbors and wrecks and things in the Mackinac area, right? But I am just going to bring up Google Earth so everybody knows what we're talking about. I normally do this live, right? Or don't do this live. I normally have this all set up and ready to go. But as you guys do, you can go to googleearth.com. It's a great tool. If you watch some of my other videos, you'll see that I use it a lot. What you're going to see here is Earth taking a little while to load, right? I don't normally use this version of Google Earth only because you can't change the dates, right? So it was looking out of Florida, so it's great. Let's come up here. Michigan is where we're talking about. A little island called Mackinac Island. Right? So let's go over Mission Point. Point. The other wreck that he found, you can actually see there's debris in through here. I don't know if you can actually see it. It's actually wave line, but I can tell you use Google Earth to look down, right? So the buoy out here, buoy. If you're looking at, let me pop over to this scene over here. Has to go right up there on that bluff. Back to here. Where's that bluff? Just so you know, Mission Point there. Bluff's probably this area right behind here. That's what you're seeing. So when you look over here, somewhere this part of Mackinac Island, right? All this area is strewn with wreckage. All this area strewn with wreckage. New wreck we're talking about probably out right around in here. I dove it. I came off of this dock, and yeah, I'm pretty. Yeah, so it's out kind of in this area. In Kevin's theory, it's very well part of the Peshtigo and part of that larger wreckage. It may be. Kind of look at mooring field. The mooring field here. I keep my boat here, roughly about where this boat is here now. That makes it what makes it interesting. Is the wreck that we're talking about. It's right here. Yep. Just deep enough. I can see it in about 50 foot of water. You can see down to about 30, 25, 30. So you're seeing it here, but it sits out. That's where the Mackinac Island Harbor sits. So a lot of people wonder just off this break wall. And like I said, we have a scan of it. Kevin did a great job of scanning it. So let's move over and take a look back at some of what we were talking about. This is the scan, gives you an idea. Down underneath, you can see damage he was talking about. And let me bring up this. So this is something else we're talking about. You're going to see I got one green highlighted, and this is what I think the Mackinac Island Harbor wreck might be. This is a list, Swayze's list. Lots of people, have a copy of it. I did some narrowing down to let's take a look at what wrecks are in the area, right? So I asked to narrow down to the Straits of Mackinac, and wanted to look at a few different wrecks, that we knew were in the straits, and ones that we know that were in the straits that weren't found yet. Um, it's on here that's it's a pretty good sized list of what could be in that area. Um, well, we look at the dolphin isn't on this list, so let me pull it up from over here. I apologize. I thought I had it on that list, but that's fine. We can get it over here. We go back here to the dolphin. Got some information about her. 119 feet long, 26 by 11, right? So 119, almost 120. I do apologize about the dog there. All right, hopefully the other dog going by that enjoy doing these live, right? Sorry about the quick little break. And so she was carrying coal, and was lost there. We know it's not the dolphin, but the only reason I wanted to, sorry, I got off track there, wanted to come back here, is we know the size of the dolphin, right? And the joy of a bird dog, guys, doing a live recording. Yeah, so we know the basic size of the dolphin. And let me switch back over to what I was originally talking about. Again, I do apologize about the dog. So we were at 119, almost 120, 26 by 11. So the Robert Burns, this is an interesting one that I think is a fair candidate. Older wreck, went down actually in the same year, didn't it? I believe the same year, just slightly later than the Dolphin of Racine. She's 126 by 29 by 10. We're talking about measuring a wreck buried in the sand, right? Talking about a wreck buried in the sand. Even from the pictures, so we're guessing on some of these measurements. So we're right in the same ballpark with Robert Burns. What do we know about the Robert Burns? Well, let's go back to Google Earth. I can tell you what I have been able to research and find out. So the Robert Burns, when we do some research, we've got a couple of different things that we have going on. The biggest thing that we're able to kind of gather. I'm going to do this this is from Swayze's list, so it's just kind of a brief, and I can fill in from there. She disappeared from view in the company of several other vessels and foundered. As of the spring of 1871, records were still trying to rescue her out of Chicago. So basically, they didn't give an idea of exactly where she went down. But I started doing some more research and was able to find out that he went down somewhere out here, somewhere along Boys Blank. Where exactly, we don't know. From my understanding, I think she was down somewhere out in this area of Boys Blank. But what we do know, that a wrecker all the way from Chicago over here and was working on her. They salvaged her. They recovered her cargo. So she was carrying wheat. So they recovered all of her wheat cargo and had floated her out here and was trying to get her somewhere. So if they floated her, where was she gonna go? So if they're out here, kind of two options, and these are kind of, some of the things we talked about different wrecks that are around, right? So let's say she was out here. One option is, to kind of come here, here, here. This is at least where they wintered boats, okay? And we're in clicks, so 30 kilometers an hour, or 30 kilometers to get there. But this is an area where they wintered boats. This was Duncan Bay. And Duncan Bay, Sheboygan wasn't here. Duncan Bay was a big area, right? So, and that was kind of one thought that that's maybe where they would have went if they floated her. Um, Now, though, I've been doing some research and we found that St. Ignace did a lot of boat repair. So now, if we're out there, instead of that route, what if we go here? Okay, we're coming in, pretty straight shot. Here, through here. Shorter, guys. 23. Not that much shorter, but shorter, right? So here's my proposition on what happened. They floated her. Uh, also, so do we do know that she sunk again on them. That's the one thing we know. We know she was been. They salvaged her cargo. Then we know they floated her, and they sunk on her, and they were going to go back the following year, which would have been 1871, I believe, and finish raising her. And the story ends there. If somebody else can find more information, I would love it. But for me, that's where the story ends. I can't find anything else in newspapers. It's just it, right? So we're looking at the Robert Burns, who actually was the last fully rigged brig on the water. She was a brigantine, but not a bark, but a brig. And they salvaged her, got stuff off of her, and then sunk again on them on their way to repairs, right? I'm thinking that she broke loose, she sunk on them, hurtled right in here. They were on their way to St. Ignace, right? Hurtled in there. She was never on the island. And why do I say that? Why do I say she was never on the island? So let's go back. Some things we do know, right? One of the things we do know, this wreck here, pilfered, completely pilfered, everything in it. Anything that they could get off of it, the islanders used to build things on the island, houses, right? They use them to build houses, and other things on the island. So when it comes to that, I don't think this wreck is too intact. There's too much out here. So backstory a little bit. So a friend of mine also on the island, they own a house here in the annex. Wrote an article in the paper. And wrote an article shortly after that, questioning what everybody's thoughts and theories were. And then I found out shortly after that that somebody found uh, the Dolphin of Racine. So anyways, my friends live up here. They live. I'm not going to point their exact house out, but they live in this area here called the Annex, right? He wrote a story that basically said, the Dolphin of Racine. So let me get rid of that. The Dolphin of Racine, she went down. They believed she was towed. I had different wharf for them, but she was tied up on a wharf here. And while she was on Mackinac, they salvaged what they could. Couldn't find a buyer for her, so they let her drift out here. Kind of the story put together for why she was even in Mackinac Harbor, why she was there. So Ryersey was who found this wreck. Jim Ryersey, Sr. His son's still alive, but unfortunately, Mr. Ryersey's already passed. But I remember a story from him and a story I've heard passed down from him through his son that he found something on this wreck. So he found this wreck out here. It was almost buried. You got to remember the break wall wasn't there when it went down. It was almost buried under the break wall. He found spittoon, I'm told, and some whiskey. Everybody says they find whiskey, so I don't know. But if it's true, there was whiskey and a spittoon on it. That tells me it had been salvaged, right? I mean, if that's all that's left, it's been salvaged. Burns was salvaged. We know that. Already we know that things were taken off. We also know that the Peshtigo, which went aground over here, was stripped, and they used it to build, houses here on the island, up in the village. So when Ryerson found this turtled upside down out there, he didn't know what wreck it is, and we still to this day don't know what wreck it is, right? We do know that it's not the at least now we do know that it's not the Dolphin of Racine. I do believe it's probably the Burns. Again, we'll go with kind of what happened. Their razor over here, somewhere. Owner probably at night, right? Something like that. Especially if they lost track of her or she went down over here, the last thing they're going to do is broadcast exactly where, right? Because they would have been out here doing whatever they could to salvage it, take whatever they could off of it, strip her clean. Come all the way from Chicago to do that work would not be happy. So I think there's a good chance that the Burns went down right there and turtled over. They lost track of her, and they were just for keeping it quiet until the next year for whatever reason they didn't get back. So let's just say she was at this dock here. I mean, this dock didn't exist then, right? But let's say she was at this dock here, right? They, in wintertime was coming, they would have stripped her. They would have taken everything off of her. The last thing they would have left on her was whiskey. Right? This wreck, as far as I'm concerned, was never anchored in this harbor knowing, at least knowing to the people in the harbor. If anybody here would have known she went down that close, just like I said, the Peshtigo, they would have taken everything off of her and used everything because they needed to back then, right? Milled lumber was milled lumber, whether it came from a shipwreck or not. That didn't happen in this case. In fact, we've got a story that even whiskey was left on, and I can tell you the people of the day would not have let good whiskey go to waste, right? The spittoon, here nor there. There's probably spittoons on board. So, but the fact that the hull is left, there was whiskey on board. She was salvaged. There was no cargo, so somebody had been on and salvaged her, right? All leads me to the fact that she was salvaged somewhere else, was brought to the island, maybe brought to the island to be stripped and sold or repaired and sold. Or, as I'm thinking, she was on her way to St. Ignace and sunk here. And the riggers and there probably, or there even could have been an issue with the insurance company in the salvage, right? They could have sunk it here on purpose. Been like, okay, we got it up. We got it in 50 foot of water. Over here, it's in 100 and some foot of water. If it's out here somewhere, you could be over 200 foot. You could be under big range. So let's say she's in 100 and some foot of water over here, which is my understanding. It was about what she was in when she was found and brought to the surface. Salvage, there may have been either a problem with the insurance company where they needed to let it sit for a while and work things out, or it did sink on them again because we did see, if we go back, we do see some damage, right? So let's go back to scene 1 here. Go to the picture that Kevin provided us, right? Got, you can overcome that with pumps, right? But there is definitely damage there. Definitely damage here at the bottom of the keel, right? They may have just sunk on her. So what other ones could it be? So let's take a look. One of the things I did kind of do is I went by size. So we know wrecks that were in the area. I could expand a little bit more because actually on this one, I don't even have the Dolphin Racine on here, I don't believe. So that's because I got straight to Mackinac. She actually was just west of the straits. But I did limit the straight to Mackinac, but we wanted to look at size. So, that's one of the things we could look at going through. There are other candidates here. some of these wrecks though have been found. So, like one of the other ones was a foot that I was looking at. If she might fit. The Odd Fellow was another one I was looking at, 107 feet. But some of these can rule out 388 feet. It's definitely not the Zenith City. We know it's not the Young. We know where the Young is. We know it's not the Barnum. The Welcome. This is another one I'm looking at for out there. Hopefully someday I'll be able to say I found the Welcome. But I know that's not the Welcome. Well, actually, I don't know it's not the Welcome there because we don't know that the Welcome is only 60 foot, 45 ton. That's a guess. I mean, there's a lot of documentation missing on what the Welcome is and even how she lost. But that's a whole nother story. We know where the St. Andrews and Peshtigo is. We know where the other Peshtigo is. Oddfellow, 107 feet, 3 miles from Mackinac City. Got to do a little more research there. Somebody may have found that one. Northwest, we know where it's at. We know it's not Nipigon. We know it's not the Noel Eddy. Maria, again, too small. Maybe off a 9 Mile Point. I have a candidate for that one, but we know it's not Maid of the Mist. We know it's not the Stalker. So we can go through here. The Kate Hayes, there's a possibility, 130 feet. Spectacle Reef, though, so she's way out at Spectacle Reef, if I remember right. She is, I think she's found. Let's go through some of these, but most of these I can rule out. So there's one called the Foot not on here that I think is a possibility, but I believe others think they've already found where the Foot was. Bonnie Doon was another one. We know it's not the Cedarville. No, it's not the Colonist. That's been recently found by some friends, but it was on my list at one time. But 25 miles southeast of the Straits, that puts it out. So, but I do believe they found the Colonist already, or the Colonial. I'm sorry, they found the Colonial, but that's a screw tug. So there's several that could be out there, but when we're looking at what's still missing, what's unknown in the right size, 126.29 by 10 versus, long on this, the Dolphin, 119.26 by 11. Pretty close in size, right, guys? That's my argument for the Foot and, for the Robert Burns. I would love to know anything you guys might know about the Burns. In fact, I'm deeply asking for help on finding things about the Burns. So I know this one may not have been as exciting as others. Hopefully we'll get some better pictures, some things like that. Enjoyed the video and enjoyed Kevin's hard work. Like I said, some of us got things right, some of us get things wrong. I can tell you there may be things wrong with this assumption here. So I could be eating crow at some time soon, right? Myself. Again, that's why I'm saying I'm not 100% sure it's the Burns. I just think there's a darn good chance it's the Burns for kind of the brief things that I said. I do think she was underway, sunk there too close to tell people where she sunk. They were going to come back next year and go after her for whatever reason, didn't come back. Or maybe they did. That's where I would love some help. The trail ends in 1871. The newspaper trail on the Burns ends. All right, so that's another episode from Naughty Dog Sailing. Hopefully get to do some sailing ones up here shortly. Got some other exciting news, moving to Starlink, so I'm going to be able to work from the island. So next summer I'll be spending more time in and around the water and hopefully have some better things for you. So again, thanks for tuning in. I hope you guys enjoyed it and have a great day.